Some artists spend years building a career, only to watch it collapse in a single moment. One bad performance, one disastrous interview, one viral clip, and everything changed. These are 10 bands and artists who became jokes in seconds. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a moment like these again.
Can you take it away? Can you take it away?
Number 10. Milli Vanilli.
It's a tragedy for me to see the dream is over.
The backing track skipped mid-performance during a July 1989 Club MTV taping at Lake Compounce in Connecticut, repeating the lyric, "Girl, you know it's true," in a stuttering loop, while the duo stood frozen on stage before bolting into the wings. It was the crack in the facade that eventually broke everything open. Producer Frank Farian had constructed the duo entirely on deception, using session singers including John Davis, Brad Howell, and Charles Shaw to record every note while Fab Morvan and Rob Pilatus mimed their way to stardom. The fallout was swift and total. In November 1990, Milli Vanilli became the first and only act in Grammy history to have their award officially revoked. The album Girl You Know It's True had sold over 14 million copies worldwide. Within weeks of the scandal breaking, the career was finished. Rob Pilatus later struggled with addiction and passed away on April 2nd, 1998. The whole empire had been built on a skipped record and a pair of running legs. Number 9. Ashlee Simpson.
I can hardly catch my breath. I hope it lasts.
4 million records sold, and a primetime television deal should have made her untouchable. On October 23, 2004, during a live broadcast of Saturday Night Live, the vocal track for Pieces of Me began playing through the monitors while her microphone sat unused at her side, and her band looked at each other in visible confusion. What she did next sealed her fate. Rather than attempt to recover, she launched into an awkward shuffling dance before walking off the stage entirely. The incident aired to millions of viewers and became the defining moment of her career overnight. At the end of the show, she blamed her band for playing the wrong song, a claim that landed poorly with audiences and press alike. Her debut album, Autobiography, had sold approximately 3 million copies in the United States and had positioned her as a credible alternative pop artist separate from her sister Jessica. That positioning evaporated instantly. Her follow-up album sold a fraction of those numbers, and the memory of that shuffle dance followed her for the rest of the decade. Number 8. Vanilla Ice.
What's the problem? Yo, I'll solve it. Check out the hook while my DJ revolves it. Ice, ice, baby.
Before his credibility fully collapsed, Robert Van Winkle had one of the fastest rises in pop history. Ice Ice Baby hit number 1 in November 1990, making him the first hip-hop act ever to top the Billboard Hot 100. The album To the Extreme sold over 7 million copies in the United States alone in under a year. He was everywhere, simultaneously. Then the question started. Journalists began pulling at the threads of his manufactured backstory, the street credentials, the tough upbringing, the gang connections, and finding very little underneath. His appearance on the Arsenio Hall show in 1991, where he defensively maintained his street image to a visibly skeptical audience, became a turning point. David Bowie and Queen's legal team also came calling over the unmistakable similarity between Ice Ice Baby and Under Pressure, a matter settled out of court. By 1992, he had become a punchline durable enough to outlast most of the artists who mocked him.
Yo, I'll solve it. Check out the hook while my DJ revolves it.
Number 7. Billy Squier. Three consecutive platinum albums between 1981 and 1984, arena tours supporting Queen. By the early part of that decade, Billy Squier had built one of the most credible hard rock followings in North America, the kind of audience that valued swagger, riffs, and attitude above everything else. Then came the video for Rock Me Tonight. Directed by Kenny Ortega, who later choreographed Dirty Dancing, the clip featured Squier writhing on satin sheets in a pink tank top, performing dance moves that his core fan base found catastrophically at odds with his established image. MTV put it into heavy rotation. The phones at radio stations lit up immediately, but not with praise. The album's Signs of Life stalled, his tour struggled to sell, and the audience he had spent years building simply walked away. In interviews decades later, Squier acknowledged openly that the video ended his commercial career in a matter of days. Number 6. The Shaggs. Their father, Austin Wiggin Jr., pulled his daughters out of school in 1968 to form a band based on a palm reader's prophecy, funding the recording of their debut album, Philosophy of the World, at Fleetwood Studios in Revere, Massachusetts. The result was unlike anything the music world had encountered. Dorothy, Betty, and Helen Wiggin played with no shared sense of rhythm, no consistent tuning, and no awareness of conventional song structure, each member seemingly performing in a separate musical universe entirely her own. The album was pressed in a run of roughly 1,000 copies, of which approximately 900 disappeared with the manager. When it was reissued in 1980 by Rounder Records, critics and musicians began using it as a cultural reference point unlike any other. Whether Frank Zappa's alleged "better than the Beatles" quote is genuine or ironic remains debated, but the fact that people still debate it at all says everything about the power of the Shaggs' peculiar legacy. They were not a flop in any traditional sense. They simply existed in a musical dimension entirely their own.
What the poor people got, and the poor people want what they've been.
Before we continue, which of these moments do you actually remember watching live? Were you in front of the TV when Ashlee Simpson walked off that SNL stage? Drop a comment and let us know where you are watching from tonight. Number 5. Creed. By 2001, Creed had sold tens of millions of albums globally. Human Clay alone was certified diamond in the United States, moving over 11 million copies. Scott Stapp's theatrical vocal delivery and the band's radio-friendly post-grunge sound had made them unavoidable on mainstream rock stations for nearly 5 years. Then came the December 29, 2002 concert at Allstate Arena in Rosemont, Illinois. Stapp arrived on stage visibly impaired, stumbling through lyrics, missing entire verses, and at points collapsing to the stage floor, while fans waited for songs that never fully arrived. A group of concertgoers filed a class-action lawsuit seeking refunds, citing the performance as a breach of contract. The lawsuit was eventually dismissed, but the damage to the band's reputation among rock fans was complete. Creed had already been the subject of relentless critical mockery, famously parodied on South Park in 2003. They disbanded in 2004, reunited in 2009, and have continued performing since. Number 4. Puddle of Mudd. At their peak in 2001 and 2002, they were genuine commercial forces. Blurry reached number 1 on the adult top 40 chart and held that position for 17 weeks, while also topping the mainstream rock chart. Come Clean sold over 3 million copies in the United States and introduced Wes Scantlin as one of the more distinctive voices in post-grunge radio rock. Producer John Kurzweg helped shape an album that connected with millions of listeners. But the years that followed were difficult. Scantlin's personal struggles became increasingly public, documented through a series of arrests, erratic concert performances, and airport incidents that circulated widely online. Then came a 2020 Sirius XM performance of Nirvana's About a Girl that spread across social media platforms not as a tribute, but as a cautionary tale. The strained vocals and visible exhaustion in the clip drew millions of views for all the wrong reasons. It was a far cry from the band that once moved millions of records. Number 3. Robin Thicke. Blurred Lines spent 12 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the summer of 2013. It became the best-selling single of that year globally and positioned Thicke as one of the dominant forces in mainstream pop and rhythm and blues. He had collaborated with Pharrell Williams and T.I., and the record broke streaming records across multiple platforms. Then his marriage to actress Paula Patton ended in early 2014, and Thicke responded by making an entire album about it. Paula, released in July 2014, was a deeply public and personal appeal to win her back. Critics found it uncomfortable rather than romantic. The album sold 530 copies in its first week in the United Kingdom, a number so specific and so devastating that it became a frequently cited benchmark for commercial failure. Patton did not return, the album did not chart, and Thicke spent the years that followed in legal battles over Blurred Lines, which resulted in an initial jury award of $7.4 million, later reduced on appeal.
You grab me, must wanna get nasty. Go ahead, get at me.
Number 2. Corey Feldman and Truth Movement. In the the 1980s, he was a legitimate cultural figure. Films like The Goonies, Stand By Me, and The Lost Boys made Corey Feldman one of the most recognizable young actors in Hollywood. The musical ambitions, however, were another matter entirely. On September 16, 2016, Feldman appeared on The Today Show to perform Go For It with his group Truth Movement. Hosts Billy Bush and Shinell Jones looked on as what followed stopped morning television in its tracks. Backed by dancers in angel wings, dressed in a fedora and sequined jacket, and surrounded by musicians appearing to play entirely different things simultaneously, Feldman delivered a performance that spread across every major platform within hours, reaching tens of millions of views as a defining example of the gap between artistic ambition and artistic execution.
We got nothing to lose, so baby, baby, let's go for it. Oh, let's go.
Number 1. Greta Van Fleet. Three brothers and a childhood friend from Frankenmuth, Michigan released their debut EP Black Smoke Rising in April 2017 and immediately attracted the kind of attention most young bands spend years chasing. Radio picked them up quickly, festival bookings followed, and by February 2019, they had won a Grammy for Best Rock Album for their EP From the Fires. The momentum was real, and the enthusiasm from rock radio was genuine. Then came the critical reassessment. Pitchfork published a review of their 2018 debut album, Anthem of the Peaceful Army, that awarded it a 1.6 out of 10. Describing it as a near-perfect sonic replica of early Led Zeppelin with nothing original underneath. The review ignited a debate that followed the band for years. Their 2019 appearance on Saturday Night Live amplified the divide, with viewers split between genuine fans and those who found the performance an exercise in imitation. They have continued releasing music and selling out tours, which means they had the last laugh in at least one sense.